Absolutely. Right, let me ask another question before we run out of time. Scott, when I was younger, I used to play rugby. This isn't me, by the way. When I was younger, I used to play rugby, love running and lifted heavy weights. Now I'm getting too old for all of that. I cycle outside, do some cross training in the gym and some light weights because I do not want to wear out my joints. Is that correct? In fact, Dr. Cole said something about that last week.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I wouldn't say that's the best routine. I think I think great that you're getting a little bit of cardio. That's great for sure. But firstly, let me just take you up on on wear out the joints, and I kind of touched on this before. Yeah, joints like to be loaded. That it's not it's more likely that it's the inflammation. There will be a bit of age related changes as you get older. Things start to wear out a little bit, but it's more joints like to be loaded. You know, like as a physiotherapist. You know, if you come into me and you have a knee pain, I will tell you to lose weight and get strong. And now, why am I? And I'll tell you to get as strong as you possibly can. Now, why am I telling you to put low for the joint? Because it's good for it. And some people think that, oh, obese people get joint pain and wear and tear because because they're obese and lots of weight is going through, but actually joints respond really well to load. And even running activities. I think that a study came out a couple of years ago that found that old recreational runners' knees are more healthy, as in they have less arthritis. I think in the cohort there was like, I think 10% of the inactive cohort had arthritis, whereas only 3% of the recreational runners had knee arthritis. So yeah, possibly if you played rugby your whole life, you might have some knee injuries, and that can lead to a bit of wear and tear. But I think if you like running, continue to run, definitely, and it's actually healthy for your knees if you build it up and you get back into it in a progressive manner. Similarly, light weights, no, I think we've already sort of touched on this recently. Definitely doing some heavy weights, trying to build muscle mass as we get older. We will, there will be a few bit of age-related muscle loss. In fact, it's been proven that we lose somewhere between 40% of our muscle mass between 20 and 80 years old. But alongside that, we'll start to lose bone mass. Alongside the loss of muscle mass, metabolism will go down, which will lead us more likely to put on weight. So we'll develop obesity, and then also muscle is well, it's metabolically active, but it's the greatest reservoir for blood glucose, blood sugar, or not blood because it comes out of your blood, but storing glucose in your body. So I think your liver can store a small amount, but most of it goes into your muscle. So if we're talking about diabetes, health, and trying to prevent that, it's massively important that you continue to sort of do some heavy weight training as you get older. I know certainly. I mean, in terms of the World Health Organization, it recommends that you get 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of sort of vigorous exercise per week. But also the recommendation is to build strength and to do at least 2 days of resistance training. Now, within general health advice, there's quite some specific stuff about how you should train your heart and things like that. But I think we could probably do with a little bit more general advice about how to build muscle out there, and actually build some muscle, even into older age. I think there was a study that came out a couple of years ago that I think it was done in Australia, and they found that only about 10% of the population was getting the World Health Organization's physical activity guidelines, and so that including the 2 days of resistance training, and I think men actually adults over the age of 50 were even less likely to do that. I can't remember the exact stats, but it was even less than 10%. So certainly, as we get older, we start to lose muscle. It's called sarcopenia, and that can lead to falls risks and decrease sort of independence, let's say. So I mean, if you've got weak quads and you're wasting away, you can't get out of a chair, you can't get off a toilet, that means you're more likely to need help, more likely to go into care as we get older. And I'm talking about people imagine when I'm talking about this, it is people are old and frail, but I'm very much an advocate, and so is Zinzino. I'm sure everyone else on the call, in terms of preventative healthcare. So start today. Start when you're 20. If you want to be a fit 80-year-old, continue to train hard and appropriately, and maintain that level of muscle mass all the way through your life. Now, why do you lose muscle? There's the nutritional component to it. So it's not getting enough protein, it's not getting enough vitamin D, and this can lead to decreases in hormonal levels such as testosterone. Now, this is a men's health talk, so testosterone is the big one, and Dr. Collins did a brilliant presentation on how or why you start to lose testosterone. But certainly lifting weights is one of the best ways you can improve, actually, have spikes in your testosterone. It's the anabolic hormone. So yeah, definitely lifting weights, if we're talking about men's health, is definitely the thing you want. And I think we've even we've touched on BMI on this, but some evidence came out about 10 years ago that so we all know that if your BMI is a bit high, then and that's your body mass index, so weight to height ratio, that you're more likely to have these conditions. Now, putting aside also, as we said, muscle is heavier than fat, so BMI is not the perfect indication. But as a reflection of that, some evidence had come out about 10 years ago saying that muscle mass index, not body mass index, was more highly correlated and more predictive of preventing diseases and even death than but simply just the weight on the scale. So as Steve said, finding out if you can have any idea of your body fat percentage, that would be great. But certainly just doing you've done just to put on, continue to build it. And even they've done the studies all. I remember when I did my undergraduate back in Sydney and a long time ago, that there was studies coming out there saying 90-year-olds can build muscle mass. So yeah, lifestyle, aging, as we've already established, has an effect, but lifestyle will over and above that will be the most important thing. And something I think would like to, we're talking about it's maintaining muscle mass. It helps prevent diabetes, even cancer. I think there's pretty good evidence that resistance training on its own has been found to decrease your risk of dying from cancer, as in having muscle mass is actually, if you are going to get cancer, and it's actually they've done some studies and found doing aerobic fitness is less preventative of dying, not necessarily from cancer, but from other things when you have cancer. So if you take take people with cancer, even make some do resistance training, make some do aerobic training, and the ones who did resistance training are about a third less likely to die from anything than the ones who just did aerobic training. So this is how important. It's not just about keeping your heart and lungs healthy. I mean, heart health is massively important for longevity. The other thing about resistance training is we talked about osteoporosis, and you're right, it's normally talked about more in women, but we know 1 in 5 men by over the age of 50 will break a bone, and sort of 40 to 50% of people who, particularly as they get older, who do have a kind of a fracture from a fall because they've got brittle bones, find that they don't come back from it. They're in pain, which they think will never go away. And even the stuff that Steve was sort of talking about, like resistance training is great for mental health. I mean, all exercise is good for mental health, but we've found that in terms of cognition, so being able to think clearly and not have your senior moments and stuff, aerobic exercise plus resistance training is much more effective than just aerobic exercise on its own. They say running, people get your endorphins. Running is great for mental health, but if you add in resistance training, you're even more going to be better, less depression, greater self-esteem and self-concept, less tension. And even if you go into anti-aging stuff, mitochondria, resistance training is important. And sorry, I kind of went off on the point I particularly did want to make was also the question mentioned light weights. Now, it depends how fast you're moving them too. There is a thing within strength training, which has to do with power. So it's how quickly you can express that strength. So, and that's something that deteriorates quicker with age than just simply strength. So doing appropriate kind of heavy training will train more powerful muscle fibers. And similarly, you might want to consider doing a little bit of more rapid power training. It's a bit complicated to explain how to move a weight quickly. Good to get a good S&C coach who could tell you how to do that. So it's not about necessarily moving quickly then slowing down, but working on your power as well has been more closely correlated with being able to get out of a chair as we get older, and some of the things I I talked about earlier. So one, no, running does not ruin your joints. And two, continue to pump that iron up until until the day you die, because it's actually gonna push down that day you die down the road. If that makes sense.
And I'll just say for women as well, because it increases the testosterone for women as well. Strength training is vital.
Oh
Over,
yeah. Growth hormones, and
yeah.
testosterone are the key nutrients you need, hormones you need to, and as we get older, I mean, there's people, if we're talking about anti-aging stuff, there's people injecting growth hormone into their body. There's men who are, men's health, testosterone massively around that.